Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Rachel McCoy, Community Connections Coordinator for Fairfield DD, and you're on a virtual community in case you didn't see that when you came into the waiting room. I want to thank you all for being here this morning, and I'm going to bring on Carrie Woody from Lancaster Public Transit.
Thanks, Rachel. So it's nice to see some familiar faces. There are a couple names I'm not too familiar with, but nice to see everybody virtually. It's been a while. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview and update on what we are doing at Lancaster Fairfield Public Transit. So for those of you who don't know, we have 25 vehicles. They are all 100% accessible. They're kind of like the mini shuttle buses that you would see at an airport. So we have 25 of those. At our peak times, we're running about 19 to 20 of those at any given point in the day. We do provide transportation. We are a city department, rather, for the city of Lancaster, but we are providing a county-wide transportation system throughout Fairfield County. And then we also connect into some of our contiguous counties like Franklin County, Pickaway, Licking, and Hocking. So we offer two different types of services here in Fairfield County. The first service that we offer is called a loop service. Those are the deviated fixed routes. So we have schedules with scheduled stops that run an hourly loop. We have 4 in Lancaster and then 1 in Pickerington. The loop schedule in Pickerington runs Monday through Thursday from 9 to noon and then 1 to 4. And it runs, like I said, or actually 1 to 5, sorry. But it runs Monday through Thursday. And those scheduled stops, you can pull up a schedule on the city's website, contact us. But those scheduled stops, the bus is just going to hit that every hour, Monday through Thursday. The 4 in Lancaster are the Memorial Loop, which runs contiguous to Memorial Drive, as far north as Meyer, as far south as Job and Family Services. We have our West Loop that runs the west side of town. Sheridan Loop runs east side of town, and then our Main Street Loop that does South Broad Street and then the Main Street corridor. So those run in Lancaster from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. currently, and that is Monday through Friday. The other type of service that we offer is our demand response service. With that service, it's similar to what you would see in maybe a taxi service, but it's shared ride transportation. So with our demand response service, you need to call ahead. We ask that you call at least a day ahead of time, but you can call up to 2 weeks in advance. You call our office and let us know where you want to be picked up and where you're going to. And then we're going to give you a window of a pickup time, and we're going to pair that with other people that are going in a similar direction, pick you up, and then take you to that destination. So some of the reason people use us on that demand response transportation could be maybe to go to work. They could be going to school. We have ladies that want to go get their hair done. They just want to go to lunch, grocery shopping, medication, the gamut. So you don't need to have a reason to ride. We don't prioritize our transportation. So it's not strictly for medical. It's not strictly for elderly. It's not for disabled. It's for anyone for any reason. So at any point in time during the day, you're going to see a 3-year-old riding to go to preschool on up to a 90-year-old plus riding our bus. When it comes to riding, we do require that people have exact fares. So if you're riding our loop service, if you are just a general public person, it is 50 cents every time you get on the bus. If you are elderly disabled, and the state regulations on elderly disabled, not mine, is 65 and older. I still think 65 is young. And the closer I get to it, the younger it seems. But 65 and older, or if you do have a permanent disability, you can apply for our Elderly Disabled Fare Assistance Program. We call it the Mobility Program. It's an application that you fill out. It's on our website, or you can contact us to get that. Once you fill out that application and submit your qualifying documentation, then you get to ride for half price. So on those loop fares, it becomes 25 cents every time you get on the bus instead of 50 cents. On our demand response transportation, where we're going that door-to-door, curb-to-curb, the general public fare is $2, or if you have that mobility elderly disabled rate, then it is $1 each time you get on the vehicle. And the reason being is the state offers this program because most of the individuals that are elderly and disabled are on a fixed income, and we want to make sure that it stays affordable for those individuals. So it just offers them a discount to ride our bus, and then the state actually reimburses us for the other half of that fare. So I'm going to stop there for just a second to see if you have any questions so far. I'm seeing a lot of shaking, so good. If you're not familiar, we actually just implemented a new type of fare payment system. So what we were seeing was individuals, especially individuals on a fixed income, or maybe they're receiving some sort of benefit, their benefits now go on to some sort of debit card. And so individuals were having to withdraw cash from an ATM, and they were being charged a fee to withdraw that cash. We did not know this. In our world, we don't deal with that. So that was news to us. And it was costing people a lot of money to withdraw cash for a $1 fare or a 25-cent fare. So we were able to get a grant, 100% grant funding through the state Ohio Transit Partnership Program, 100% funding to implement what's called Easy Fare. The letter E, the letter Z is in zebra. It is an app on your mobile device that you download, and then it allows you to purchase mobile electronic tickets to ride our bus. You can do one ticket at a time, you can purchase multiple tickets at a time, or you can also purchase that monthly pass on our loop service. So that's unlimited rides on all of our loops for 31 days. So again, that is called Easy Fare. It's an electronic fare payment system. So we've had a lot of success and a lot of response to that new system. We implemented in the beginning or middle of July rather, and it's taken over half of our fares at this point. So people are really using that. We've really done no marketing on it other than hanging signs in our buses. But it seems to be a great alternative for people, especially people that were using those ATM cards to withdraw cash. If you are riding our buses, we do have a couple rules. One is you cannot use profane language. So if people have profane language, we're going to ask them to watch their language. If you're carrying bags with you, we ask that you only carry what you can handle, especially on those loops. On the loops, the drivers are on a very strict schedule, so they don't have times on those routes to be taking bags or boxes to people's doors. So we ask that you carry what you can handle. On that door-to-door service, the drivers are a little more lax and have a little more time, so they can usually offer assistance to help passengers on and off the vehicle with their bags. But we still try and limit it to what you can handle and keep comfortably secure in front of you on the bus. If you know you're going to need assistance, we do allow any passenger to ride with a personal care attendant. They just need to let us know if they're on that demand response transportation, we ask that you let us know when they're scheduling their ride, so we make sure we have enough seats for that personal care attendant. Any personal care attendant can ride for any reason for free. They just need to let us know when they're scheduling that they're going to have that care attendant. If they're on those loops, you don't need to schedule a ride. You're at the posted stop at the time posted. And if you're getting on the bus and you have a care attendant with you, you just let the driver know, here's my fare, and I'm letting this person ride with me as my care attendant to help me today. So with that, I'm going to again just pause one more time to see if you have any questions before we move further. No? I'm trying to just break it up because I tend to talk a lot. I enjoy talking, for those of you who know me. Most of you do. So some of the things that we... Go ahead.
Real quick.
Yes, Rachel.
Do you have special routes and times for events, like when different events are going on in town, or is it always just basically the same schedules?
So when we have special events, yes. Of course, with COVID, that's kind of put a stop to a lot of special events. The biggest one that we do is the fair. When the fair is in operation, we won't be doing it this year, but usually for the fair, when the fair is running on normal business, we would do fair shuttles, and that's completely free for people to use back and forth to the fair. And we post those shuttle schedules, and the fair also puts it in their program guide. But it's free for anybody to use. We let people off inside the fairgrounds, which is amazing, because then if somebody does have mobility issues, whether, it's just, trouble walking, or if they have a walker, or if they're in a mobility device, we're letting them off inside the fairgrounds so that they're not having to go through a parking lot and try and get through a grassy field. So yes, during the fair, we do that. The Lithopolis Honey Fest, oftentimes we'll do some free shuttle work for the Lithopolis Honey Fest for the same reason, to help people get in and out of the Honey Fest. And then for the Lancaster Festival, we'll do the same. We'll help with transportation again to help people get individuals with mobility issues, helping them get closer to the festival without having to walk too far. So good question, Rachel.
I have a question.
Yes.
And you may have said this, so I apologize. If you say, yes, I already said this, I'll just watch the recording and you can move on. But when you're talking about the app, and it's an easier way to make the payments for the rides, but did you say that there was also like, are the maps on there? Are the stops and the times on there as well? Or is that something different?
I did not say that, and that's a great question. So the maps are not on there. So we are working on currently, it's a state initiative that, again, with the state funding through the Ohio Transit Partnership Program, we're working on getting our maps and all of our routes onto Google, so that it'll be on Google Maps. And there's what's called the Transit app. And so we're working on getting them live on both of those. I just don't think that they're there yet. I know that our IT department has sent them all the information they need, but I've not received information that it's actually live. So for now, if you want the schedule or the maps, it's just a downloadable PDF on our website. But good question. So yeah, that Easy Fare app is strictly just for payment. Yep. All right, other questions? Okay, so moving on, some of the things that we are looking at, we also received another state grant to add to our current service. So as many of you know, this has been a discussion for several years. We have had a lot of requests to do transportation like a commuter service to the Rickenbacker area. There are a lot of jobs open in the Rickenbacker area, specifically even for clients with disabilities. So we've been working for several years on trying to figure out how to fund a commuter service to get people to Rickenbacker so that they can have meaningful employment. So we did receive a grant. We are working on finding drivers. As soon as we have drivers hired, we can start this commuter service as early as mid-October if we could get some drivers hired. It's going to be a pilot for 6 months. It's going to be commuter service taking 2 buses in the morning at 2 separate times, returning 2 separate times in that late afternoon, early evening. It's going to go to the Rickenbacker area to connect to the greater Rickenbacker transit system, which then goes to each specific stop inside the Rickenbacker industrial park. And it will also connect into CODA. They meet in the mornings, and all 3 buses will transfer back and forth. And then again, 2 times in the afternoon, we'll transfer back and forth. So that will allow individuals the option to work at the Rickenbacker area. There are several industrial businesses in there that are currently looking for employees. And then it also gives them the option to connect into CODA. They have 2 lines that will connect into CODA to offer then people into other options to go into downtown Columbus, South Hamilton corridor for other employment options as well. So we are really excited to start that. Like I said, we've been working on this for at least 3 years trying to find funding for it. So we are really hoping to get this pilot underway and off the ground. So if you know of anyone who would be interested in a part-time driving position, we would like to hire at least 4 part-time drivers. We will train them. The only thing that they need is to have a valid driver's license. They cannot have more than 4 points on their license, and then they have to be able to pass their pre-employment testing, which includes drug and alcohol testing and a DOT physical. So if you know of anyone that might have an interest in driving part-time, maybe it's somebody retired, maybe it's someone with another part-time position, or maybe it's a student, maybe at OUL if you know anyone that would just like a part-time position. We would love to get some applicants so we can get people hired and start this pilot service to Rickenbacker. We know that jobs are opening up daily in that area because they're getting ready to hire for their seasonal help. So we'd love to be able to connect people in Fairfield County to those open positions. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chaslyn, and she's going to talk about kind of some of the COVID-related questions in terms of what we've been doing in response to COVID. So Chaslyn?
Hi, how's everyone doing today? So we have been making sure that our buses are cleaned daily. Our drivers after every shift completely sanitize. I mean, they wipe down everything from our seat belts to the securements, all the seats, anything that could be possibly touched by anyone. We also have an electric static sprayer. Our bus washer cleans the insides of buses with that just to add an extra layer of protection for our buses every day. He's doing that as well. So, and we have extra masks that we keep on the bus so our drivers can offer them to the public. And then we have plenty of masks available for them, gloves. So we're doing everything we can to keep everyone safe. And just as a special note about our drivers too, we have a great bunch of drivers. I mean, they actually care about our passengers. So I just want to kind of give a shout out to them as well. Does anyone have any questions about any COVID related? All right, well, thank you. Carrie, do you have anything else to add?
I have a quick question. So with the COVID, are you guys limiting then the amount of passengers? And you may have said it, but to, you know, certain amount of passengers per vehicle?
We are trying to do that. Sometimes it's a little hard because we only have 6 to 8 seats in there. Carrie, do you want to add anything to that?
I'll just add that the Ohio Public Transit Association worked with the Ohio Board of DD to work on guidelines for public transit. And they worked with the Ohio Department of Medicaid, Ohio DD, Ohio JFS, and the Health Department. And they came out with guidelines for us. And so we are following all the guidelines that they put out for us. Unfortunately, in a rural setting, when you're running these smaller buses, you can't limit it to 6 feet. There's just no way. If you limit it to 6 feet, you would have one passenger in the very back of the bus in a wheelchair position and then a driver, because the buses are really only 8 feet long inside. So you can't limit it to 6 feet social distancing, but we do try and limit the number of people whenever possible on the bus. But the guidelines that they gave us to adhere to are mostly about making certain people are trying to wear their masks, you know, making sure the drivers are protecting themselves and protecting the passengers when they're doing securements, making sure masks are on so that they're not breathing on each other when doing securements, you know, fresh air instead of recycled air, trying to keep windows open whenever possible, making sure that our filters are being cleaned inside the buses and those type of things. So we're following all the guidelines that they gave us as closely as we can. But when it comes to like social distancing inside the bus, it's just, that's not going to happen in these small buses. It would limit to one person per bus, and we'd be allowed to do 20 trips a day or 40 trips a day. And we have 300 to 400 a day. So does that answer your question?
It did, thank you.
Anything else? So Rachel, either we did an extremely good job of describing public transit, and I would love for you to tell my boss that, how wonderful we did, or everybody's just completely bored with public transit.
I think that you did an extremely amazing job. I will definitely let your boss know for sure. I think that you guys do such a good job all the time that we know a lot of the things that are going on. So maybe that's the difference. So kudos in 2 areas. We already know, and for the new information. So there you go.
Thanks. I'll just add one more thing. If you're not familiar, Jordy Stringer with SOSL, the Southeastern Ohio Center for Independent Living, has done an amazing job, and Pam Patula before him did this as well, but they've done an amazing job of trying to offer their assistance for public transit. So they have offered to do travel training whenever someone wants it. And we try to do that as well, but we have a limited staff. So if you do have individuals wanting to try it, but they're nervous, they're scared, especially on those loops, people get overwhelmed, and those schedules and maps seem very daunting if they haven't used it before. So if you do have a new client or a new individual that wants to try it, reach out to us or reach out to Jordy at SOSL, because we're more than happy to help travel train to help people get comfortable with that. Or even if you want to train your staff on how to use it so that they in turn can do some travel training. I know we've had a couple individuals, Kathleen Carlson has ridden a couple times because she wanted to make sure she could travel train her individuals. And boy, did she let our drivers, know what they needed to improve on. Kathleen's awesome. So anytime that your staff want to do that, let us know, because we'll let them ride for free so they can learn about it. It helps us improve because you can let us know things that we can improve on. So again, I just wanted to add that and offer that as well.
Thank you. We really do appreciate that too. I don't have any questions in the chat either, so I do think that you covered everything beautifully. Thank you. We appreciate that.
I got some. I got 2 questions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pam's got questions. Go ahead.
Thanks for asking, Rachel. So my first one was, and this has been a while, but I know that when the loops were first starting and you were trying to get more people to utilize the loops and less of the door-to-door services, is that something that's kind of gotten better? I know that there was encouraging people to use those because there was limited drivers being able to do the door-to-door. So some people weren't able to get transportation in the rural areas just because there wasn't enough, or like because of the timing and the schedules. Has that improved much since the loops have become more established?
Absolutely.
Good.
So we're at the point now, and these loops, again, we've done very limited marketing because we are on such a tight budget with public transportation that we don't get marketing dollars here. We're a rural community. We are very, very tight on our funding. So all of our marketing has been word of mouth. And, you guys are our biggest marketing pieces ever because you help us so much. So when we started these loops, yes, the idea was to try and get as many people as we could to transition to these loops, because it costs us half the price to run these loops, and we can get twice as many people on than when we do the demand response. When we're doing our demand response, if you think about, one bus trying to get from Millersport to Amanda to Baltimore to Pickerington, you're going to do maybe 3 trips in an hour because you're just zigzagging all through the county. And we try and group them together as much as possible. But it was very limited to what we could do, and it's cost prohibitive. When we're doing these loops, you can get up to 10 people on it in an hour, easy, sometimes more, depending on how many people are getting on and off at different stops. So we are now at the point where our loop ridership is more than our demand response. And hopefully you guys have seen with the individuals you're working with, we have a lot less trip denials. So we had, 2 years ago, we had so many trip denials, especially in the county. So people wanting to ride from Millersport, people wanting to ride from Baltimore and Pickerington and Amanda. So those trip denials have gone way down. So we're able to get, out into the county more and be much more flexible in our scheduling to help people get to those employment opportunities and to get to school and where they're wanting to go. So from our perspective, we feel like we've improved. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. And we definitely have room to improve. And we would love to get more buses on the road. But again, it's a funding issue. So when we had those limited funds, we're just trying to use them in the best way we possibly can. And these loops definitely help us.
Yeah, that's encouraging. I think I would hope to see the more accessible they become, like kind of like you were saying with the payments and the maps and all of these things. If they're more accessible, then I can only imagine that they would be utilized more often too. Okay, so my second question is, it comes to the marketing piece that you rent out on your buses. So what's that process look like if somebody wants to, or do you have them like kind of pushed out for years in advance, like one business has purchased all of the marketing space?
So we actually use a third party to handle all of the advertising on our buses. I used to do it about 10 years ago, and it just became extremely overwhelming, and it was almost like a full-time job in and of itself, and I could not keep up. So we use a company, it's called Motion Media. And so I push all of those advertising and things onto him because he has the calendar, he keeps in contact, he handles the scheduling and the billing, and just sends us a check. Which is super for me. So if you are interested in that, I can get you his contact information. Yes, and what happens, the reason we do advertising on our vehicles is because that is money that counts as local match for us to bring in those state and federal grant dollars. So we encourage anyone to advertise on our buses because that's local funding for us.
I was really wanting to do an art project, but
Ooh.
utilize that as marketing. So, but it wouldn't. Yeah, so I'll talk with you more about it, but
oh yeah,
it was more of that, so it wasn't like for a business or anything.
Okay, well, and if it's something like that to market, you know, maybe for art and clay or something like that, let's definitely talk, because we might be able to even just do it for free.
Oh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Uh-huh.
So that's like community connecting at its best right there. Done, check.
I'll tell your bosses about that, Rachel.
Perfect. Does anybody else have any other questions before I say no one else has any other questions? No, Pam, you sure? You good? Okay. All right, awesome. Well then, I think that that's all. Thank you so much for being on today and giving us all the information. I want to let everyone know next week on the 29th, oh my gosh, the 29th, we have Meals on Wheels on Virtual Community. And then on the 1st, we have Compassion Furniture Bank. So those are the two that are coming up for next week in October already. And if you would like to share today's video with anyone, the YouTube link will be put up by the end of the day. You can go on, share with that information with anybody, or share the schedule of the upcoming event. Also, if you have anyone that you know that would like to host a virtual community, they can get in touch with me. They can email me, rrmccoy@fairfielddd.com, or call, and we will get them set up. So with that, I think we're good. Thank you so much, ladies. We appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming again. Have a great day.